creates the world, and he creates mankind in a perfect setting, perfect relationship with himself. But the enemy makes a move on the chessboard. Do you remember? He slithers into the garden. He causes Eve to take a bite of that fruit, and she offers it to Adam. And all of a sudden, sin and rebellion has entered into the picture of humanity. And then Cain kills Abel, and now murder has made its entrance onto the scene. It seems like the enemy has won. But our God, never to be outdone, he makes another move. And he causes Adam and Eve to come back together. They have another baby named Seth. Seth gives birth to a baby named Enosh. And Genesis chapter 4 says that when Enosh was born, everybody began to worship God again. But the enemy made another move on the giant chessboard for our souls. He caused sin and rebellion to enter back into the hearts of mankind. And it proliferated so much so and spread so far and wide across the earth that the whole earth needed to be destroyed by a flood. And this time, for real, it seemed like the enemy had won. But our God, never to be outdone, he made another move. He went and he found this man named Noah. He said, Noah, I need you to build me an ark. Noah said, do what? He said, I need you to build me an ark because it's going to rain. Noah hadn't even seen rain. He didn't even know what an ark was, but he followed the instructions anyway, as confused as he may have been. And the New Testament tells us, looking back on Noah, that through one man's obedience, all of mankind was preserved. The enemy made another move, and he caused sin and rebellion to enter back into the hearts of mankind. It proliferated across the whole earth, and it seemed like once again the enemy had won, but our God, never to be outdone, he made another move. He went to this little pagan town called Ur, and he found this man named Abram, and he plucked him out of Abram, and he said, Abram, I'm going to change your name to Abraham, and I'm going to give you new GPS coordinates on your destiny. I'm going to send you to Canaan, a land flowing with milk and honey, and I'm going to create a brand new people group out of you called the nation of Israel. And these people, they are going to bear my name. They are going to be mine, and I am going to be theirs once and for all. The church, the people of God, they were established. And then the enemy made a move. He took now God's people, caused them to go down into Egypt for 400 years. They were brutalized and they were enslaved, and it seemed like the enemy had won, but our God, never to be outdone, he made another move, and his name was Moses. He caused Moses to be raised as the prince of Egypt, and at the right time, about 80 years old, he said to Moses, Moses, you go tell Pharaoh, let my people go. And after 10 miraculous plagues, you remember, 40 years in the wilderness, they finally came into the promised land, the place representing the promise and the favor of God's people with them for all time. But the enemy made another move. And now God's people in the promised land, they turned their back on the one true God, and they started worshiping idols. By the time you get to the end of the book of Judges, it says everybody was doing what was right in their own eyes. Seemed like the enemy had won. But God made another move. Her name was Ruth. And Ruth had a lot of chaos in her life. It seemed like she would never be able to contribute anything beneficial to this divine plan of God for your soul and mine. But this woman, she met her kinsman redeemer, and his name was Boaz, and the two of them gave birth to a baby boy named Obed, and Obed gave birth to a baby boy named Jesse, and then Jesse gave birth to a baby boy named David, King David, that David. And with that one move, the enemy didn't even know it yet, but the checkmate was already on the way. And when the Old Testament closes, y'all, there are 400 years of silence. The enemy is on one side of the cosmic chessboard. God is on the other. And for 400 years, neither one of them makes a move. And all of history is waiting in the balance, waiting to see who in the world is going to make that next move. Y'all, then the New Testament opens. And God makes a move for which the enemy still to this day has never had a response. He comes down in the person of Jesus Christ. And he died a substitutionary death. And then he is raised from the dead. And he covers all of humanity for all time. Why in the world would Paul bring up this salvation in a comment that he's trying to make, a point he's trying to make about the patience of God? Because he basically wants you and I to know that if God